Lindsay Lohan didn't just become famous, she grew up inside fame. While most people figure out who they are in private, she did it on red carpets, in interviews, in tabloid photos taken from across the street. And for a moment, it looked like the cleanest success story Hollywood can sell. A young star with real talent, perfect timing, and a future that seemed guaranteed. But early fame has a hidden cost. When the world rewards you before you've built emotional structure, the spotlight doesn't just illuminate you, it shapes you. Childhood becomes branding. Teen years become a product. Mistakes become public property. This episode isn't celebrity gossip. It's a case study in a mechanism. What happens when an industry turns adolescence into entertainment, and an audience learns to watch someone's real life the way it watches a show? Because once the cameras are always there, your life stops having an off switch. Lindsay's rise was bright enough to feel untouchable. Movies, magazine covers, endorsements, the sense that she was everywhere at once. And that's exactly why the fall felt like it happened in real time. Not behind closed doors. Not years later in a memoir. Live, in headlines, in photos, in clips replayed until they became a storyline. The question that keeps pulling the story forward isn't, why did she mess up? It's, why did the entire system seem designed to profit more from the stumble than from the stability? And what does that do to a young person who never gets to fail in silence? The early success years moved fast. One project led to the next, and the image solidified. The face of a generation of teen stardom, packaged as fun, glamorous, and effortless. Hollywood loves momentum, and momentum loves youth, because youth is easy to market and hard to protect. As opportunities stacked, so did expectations. Every appearance had to look perfect. Every interview had to land. Every public moment had to reinforce the story. Rising star, unstoppable trajectory. But behind the glossy narrative was a schedule built to extract maximum visibility. Fame wasn't just a reward for the work, it became the job itself. And the job came with a routine most audiences never see up close. Constant surveillance. Paparazzi outside restaurants, outside cars, outside doors that should have been private. The more attention she got, the less space she had to be a regular young adult learning through trial and error. In an environment like that, normal, social life becomes complicated. Parties can turn into networking. Social circles can become transactional. People show up because proximity has value. And when you're young, famous, and surrounded by yes energy, bad decisions don't feel like warnings. They can feel like part of the lifestyle people expect you to live, which is exactly where the pressure starts pushing the story into its next phase. Because once the public begins associating you with the lifestyle becomes content. And content is profitable. The hidden side of fame isn't only temptation, it's incentive. A calm month doesn't sell like a chaotic week. Stability doesn't generate clicks like a crisis does. Over time, the media ecosystem learns what to chase, and celebrities learn what gets amplified. In widely reported public records over the years, Lindsay faced legal troubles, court appearances, and stints in rehab, moments that should signal pause and care, but were often consumed like episodes in an ongoing series. A photo becomes evidence. A rumor becomes a storyline. A personal low point becomes a punchline. The person becomes a character the world thinks it understands. That's the core mechanism. When millions watch you, you don't get to be messy quietly. You don't get to process mistakes privately. The pressure doesn't just come from consequences. It comes from being watched while you face them. And being watched changes behavior. It can make accountability feel like humiliation, and humiliation can push people toward isolation, impulsivity, and more mistakes. Meanwhile, the industry keeps updating your value in real time, not only based on talent, but on reliability. Can you show up? Can you finish? Can you be insured? And at some point the narrative flips, and the reputation begins to speak louder than the work, which is where the hardest battle starts. Because once reputation becomes louder than talent, every opportunity comes with a question mark. The conversation shifts from "she's a star" to "she's a risk." And that shift is brutal in entertainment, where trust is the real currency. You can survive criticism. You can survive a flop. But once people doubt whether you're dependable, doors start closing quietly and quickly. What made Lindsay's situation especially intense was the timing. This was an era when celebrity coverage became faster, more constant, and more aggressive, an early version of what social media would later perfect. Endless replay, endless commentary, endless judgment. The public didn't just hear about the struggles, it watched them unfold in near real time. And that creates a trap. If you try to defend yourself publicly, you feed the machine. If you disappear, the machine fills the silence with speculation. If you show vulnerability, it gets monetized. So the person at the center can start living reactively, responding to narratives instead of building stability. Still, this is the part many people forget. A fall isn't a single event. It's an accumulation of pressure, environment, and choices. And rebuilding isn't a single comeback moment either. It's slow, unpopular, and deeply practical. Relearning limits, choosing support, and proving reliability one step at a time, while the world keeps asking why the collapse was so watchable in the first place. Because the uncomfortable truth is that young celebrity falls are sellable. They mix glamour with failure, success with chaos, and they let audiences feel both superior and emotionally invested at the same time. The industry gets headlines. Media outlets get clicks. Commentators get content. And the person living it gets a life permanently tagged by their worst moments. Rebuilding credibility means fighting a ghost, the version of you the public remembers. For Lindsay, the challenge became less about talent and more about trust, showing up consistently, setting boundaries, stepping away from environments that keep the cycle alive, and re-entering work in a way that doesn't require constant self-destruction as proof of relevance. And that kind of rebuild rarely looks dramatic from the outside. It looks quiet. It looks like fewer headlines. It looks like saying no to the very attention that once felt like power. Because the real lesson of early fame is that exposure is not the same thing as support. The more you study these stories, the clearer the pattern becomes. The public demands a perfect image, then consumes the breaking of that image as entertainment. And the question that lingers isn't only about one person. It's about the system that turns a young life into a spectacle before it's fully formed, which is why the ending of this episode has to land on the channel's core message. Fame too early is a form of risk. Without real support, it accelerates exposure, impulsive choices, public punishment, and long-term damage, turning a human life into a product and then into a spectacle. Lindsay Lohan's story shows how a young star can win early and still lose the one thing that matters most: the ability to fail, learn, and heal in private. The moral is simple. The world often confuses applause with care. It confuses visibility with protection. And when a celebrity becomes a character, the person behind the character can disappear right in front of everyone. Now I want your take. Why do you think young celebrity downfalls are so profitable? Because of the media, the industry, the audience, or all three? Leave a comment with your honest answer. If you want more documentary-style episodes about the hidden mechanics of fame, how icons are built, consumed, and sometimes broken, subscribe and turn on notifications. Next video, another perfect story that looked unstoppable until the spotlight turned into a trap.